Hey everyone, I wanted to make a video about 10 tips for absolute beginners in Halo Wars 2. If you're someone that has just picked up the game or wants to dive into the multiplayer of Halo Wars 2, I think these are 10 good tips to keep an eye on or be mindful of when you jump into your next match, so you can hopefully become a little bit more successful in these games. I see oftentimes a lot of new players will just dive straight into multiplayer the first time they fire up Halo Wars 2, and they're a little bit overwhelmed with all of the options and upgrades and the dynamics of the game. And I think that can be frustrating when you get completely steamrolled online and you can kind of just give up. So these are some tips that I've learned painfully over the years, so maybe this will help you in Halo Wars 2. I should mention that there is a playlist for all the videos that I'm doing for a Halo Wars 2 beginner's guide. I'll leave a link to that down below, as well as a link to our Discord server that you can join if you have any more questions about Halo Wars 2. So first thing that you want to do is you want to do the in-game tutorial first before you jump in online. And I know that kind of really is a shame to hear when you jump into the game and you're excited to play multiplayer, but seriously, the in-game tutorial for Halo Wars 2, both the basic and the advanced tutorial, is really, really helpful to help you understand how units work, how upgrades work, the dynamics between units, and how your economy works. The second thing you want to do is, as soon as the game starts, you want to start with a supply pad. Reason being is I see a lot of players will start with a generator first, and then they'll train like Marines or Jackrabbit or something, and then they actually run out of supplies, and they have absolutely no way to generate more supplies at the very beginning of a match, and it's actually impossible to keep playing. You can't build any more buildings, you can't upgrade anything, you can't do anything, you can't build units, can't build any more buildings, and you're kind of really just stuck there waiting for a teammate to send you supplies. So start with a supply pad first, and that way you can get your economy rolling and you can start building other buildings. The third thing that you should do is upgrade your supply pads and your generators. It may seem like it's quite a lot of power to upgrade your supply pads and generators. It's 200 for supply pads, 300 for generators. It's the same cost for both UNSC and Banished. A few leaders do have some cheaper upgrades, like Forge's Rolling Economy makes these upgrades a little bit cheaper, but it is definitely worth it, especially for your generators. It makes the generator income so much better. Same with supply pads. Your rate of return is not as good the more supply pads you build, but it's still worth it no matter the cost to upgrade your supply pads and your generators. The fourth point is to take your mini bases. Now, there's a lot of mini bases on, I think, almost every map in Halo Wars 2. And at the beginning of a match, they are quite expensive, 200 for the 1-slot mini bases and 300 for the 2-slot mini bases. But it is pretty critical that you gather these mini bases. You can use these slots to build more supply pads or even some production buildings, or maybe you can put your war council or your armory there. But you don't want this to fall into the enemy hands, because not only will they take it and either build a supply pad and get an economy going while you have to spend the time taking it out and they're just making money watching you destroy their mini base, or they can use it to make a production building and train units right on your side of the map and have a pretty nasty sneak attack. The fifth point is you need to be taking your power nodes. Power nodes not only give you line of sight, but it's a constant free income of power throughout the entire match. And it's a very slow trickle amount of power that comes in when you have your power nodes. But say you multiply that slow income by 4 or 5 power nodes that you control, and that's going to be quite beneficial. It really adds up over time. And you can see when, even if you only have, like, say, 2 generators or power extractors, and then you have 3 power nodes, you're going to have a pretty good power income to upgrade to the next tech, upgrade your units, that sort of thing, make some of your more advanced units. So power nodes are very helpful. Sixth point is you want to be spending your leader points that come in when you immediately get them in Halo Wars 2. Now, it's kind of hard for me with 16 leaders, and they all have a different playstyle to recommend what to spend your leader points on. I'm going to reserve that to the individual leader guides that I do in Halo Wars 2. That's also in the playlist. But by and large, you really can't go wrong with a lot of the leader points on your wheel. So if you're having any sort of confusion on what to get, just be mindful of what do you think will benefit you the most in your playstyle. Is it more of a passive leader point that you want to get? such as combat repair for colony, or is it more of an active one, such as the glassing beam or something? Can be a game changer when you get a better offensive leader power, or save you if you get a really good passive power. So be sure that you're spending your leader points as soon as you get them. The 7th tip is to immediately upgrade your expo bases when you expand. So usually when you get around into 2nd tech is when you want to start expanding your base. Get a 2nd base up so you can start making more production buildings to train your units, or more economic buildings to boost your economy. You want to make sure as soon as you can, I think it's about 400 power depending on who you're playing as, you want to immediately upgrade your expansion base. The reason being is it gives you 2 more building slots, and it gives you the 4 turret slots, and that's going to be critical to protecting the base. It also gives the base more health. The 8th tip is kind of building off the last one, is you want to make sure that you're building turrets and shield generators. Now, I usually build 1 or 2 turrets towards the beginning of a match to kind of discourage a rush towards my base. Actually, if you have just simply 1 turret and an enemy goes to attack you early on, that's usually enough to kind of discourage them, and it may kind of stop the entire attack. But I think having turrets is an easy choice. Same goes with shield generators. I'm a firm believer that every banished base that you have should have at least 1 shield generator and also 1 cloaking generator. Shield generators are just so good in Halo Wars 2. It really can stop so many attacks, like a vulture spam attack. The shield generator can kind of absorb a lot of that damage. So be sure whenever you have the supplies or the power, make sure that you're building on all 4 of your turret slots whenever you can. The 9th tip I have is never build generators or power extractors on a mini base. And this may be, kind of confusing to you. You may be asking, well, why? What's the big deal? Well, the mini base building itself does not have as much health as your regular big base that you build or you start with at the beginning of the match. Also, a generator or a power extractor has increased cost with each one that you make. So the cost increases for your 2nd generator. That costs more than your 1st. Your 3rd generator costs more supplies than it did for your 2nd. So by the time you get around to building a generator on a mini, you're probably spending somewhere between 800 and 1100 supplies to get just simply 1 generator in a location that's not defended easily with the low health of a mini base. That's a really good, easy target for your opponent to deal a big blow to your economy. The only exception I would really grant to this rule, if you want to build a generator or power extractor on a mini, is if it's way far in the back. Ashes has a mini base that's really far in the back, kind of in between 2 bases. I would say that's okay. On Sentry as well, in the bottom right and bottom left corners of the map, there's mini base slots right next to your starting base. You could put a generator there. And then if you're playing as Johnson and you get digging in deep, all your buildings are free, so it doesn't really matter. You can just put generators wherever you want once you have that power. The final tip is keep an eye on your units at all times. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've kind of moved my cursor over to my base to get some upgrades or look at a different base to think about what buildings I'm going to be placing. Meanwhile, an enemy comes over with either a cloaked unit or a sneak attack or a pelican transport or whatever the case may be. A really quick move to get to my units, and they'll start dropping all of their offensive leader powers, the glassing beam, an inferno, a cryo bomb, whatever it is. And I start automatically losing all of my units that I spent a lot of resources and time on. So what can happen is once your army's wiped out, you have to spend your time and your resources retraining it. All the meanwhile, your opponent is going to go straight for your base and try and take you out of the game. So just be mindful of where your units are. You don't always need to be staring at your units, of course, but just keep an eye on your mini-map. Make sure that you're not seeing your enemy approaching you or a pelican dropping off a lot of units or something. It is quite frustrating to lose your entire army to a quick attack like that. So that's going to do it for this guide, 10 tips for absolute beginners in Halo Wars 2. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any other suggestions that beginners should know, please post a comment down below. I'd love for you to share your information with other new players in Halo Wars. Again, there is a playlist down below for you to check out for all the other videos in my Halo Wars 2 guide. And finally, we have a Discord server with almost 3,000 people in it for you to check out if you have any more questions on Halo Wars 2 and want to get more direct answers to your questions. Okay, that does it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you, James.